Welcome back. You're looking at a brand new, totally stock SCX24 deadbolt, minus the rims and tires. But other than that, this thing is brand new out of the box. It's been run once. I just put on these wheels and tires to get a sense of it because I've got a build plan for it. So with a brand new truck, I figured there's no better thing to do than put some brand new parts on there. So we've got something I'm really excited about. So I'm kind of going off build script here. Wasn't necessarily planning on this, but I'm going to go ahead and install these since I'm excited about them. All right, let's get down to business. So we're looking at some hot off the presses brass portals from Mofo RC. And these are front and rear portal boxes, front brass knuckles, and you've got your rear shafts and your front shafts and your portal gears. And you've got no bearings in this because everything is machined to a fine tolerance. You've got no separate gears, they're part of these axles. So it looks like a great little system here, not a ton of parts to go with it. And then I've got the 8 and 12 millimeter hardware, and I guess kingpin bushings there. And then this is something else that I wasn't necessarily planning on, but these are really awesome. I stopped by Nick's shop today to pick up these brass portals that I had ordered and some brass axles. And he tossed me these rims to try. These are brand new from him. These are resin printed, deep dish. These are larger than 1 inch. I'm not sure if they're like 1.2 inch, but they're larger on purpose so you can stretch the tire over this without having to glue it on necessarily. And he had some mounted up and they gave a really good look, kind of stretched the tire a little. And then these will mount on his zero offset hubs. And these are designed to really have a negative offset to sit back over the portal, so it takes out some of that width. So the portals will give you +8 millimeters on each side. So then when you add a typical wheel to that, that would push you out potentially another 3, 5, you know. So you could end up with an 11 millimeter on each side really quick. So these wheels will help offset that back inward so there's not so much wheel scrub. And he gave me some nice black hardware to use with those. So I think that's going to be the first thing we do to this deadbolt, just to get a really nice comparison of stock to not, and just see what these do hooked up to the stock ESC and stock motor, just so everybody can get a really good picture of these. And then we'll get a weigh in after, see what kind of weight we add to this thing, and that'll be the only thing we do to it. But as another little surprise, he slid me one of his carbon fiber ugly as F Mofo chassis. So that may go on this deadbolt, that may not. It depends if I want to use a front bumper on the deadbolt. This is a stubby chassis, you can see, so it doesn't have the extension for the bumper. So we'll see, but I'm excited about that too. But I think the business of the day will be these brass portals, so we'll get into them. I'm putting the stock tires back on there. Just want to give you a good sense of the width difference with just the UPW wheels with the 3 millimeter offset hubs versus stock, how skinny they are. So these are a great option if you don't want to add extended axles. But you can imagine this +3, add this to a +8 for the portal. That's going to be pretty wide. So I'm going to put the stock wheels and tires on here, just give it a quick run forward and backwards, just fully stock, just so we can get a comparison. And then we'll get those portal pieces out, take a closer look and get those installed. All right, stock deadbolt. So that's kind of the pep. So this is on high. So you can see there's not a ton of torque available. And we should get some portal gear reduction, so we should get some additional torque once we get these installed. So just kind of wanted to get a baseline for pep because I know we're going to lose some speed with that reduction. All right, so that's kind of the stock setup. So let's get these guys going. All right, here's the kit laid out. Pretty simple. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. So we've got outer portal boxes, we've got inner portal boxes. Those are the same front and rear. The outers have the recesses for the screw head. So pretty obvious there. Output shafts and attached gears are the same front and rear. And then obviously the front drive slot axles with the gear. I've got one slid into the knuckle already. And then the rear shafts and gear, super beefy. And then you've got your hardware, I think 412s, 4/8s. The 12s will be through bolts going through the inner outer into the knuckle, or the inner outer into the axle in lieu of these two bearing retainer screws. And then these short screws will be going through the other two holes, just holding the inner and the outer portal box together. And then of course you've got the knuckle hardware and kingpin bushings. So this front box is going to attach to the knuckle. The knuckle will attach to the axle as typical. So I'm going to get out some waterproof marine grease, put a little grease in these as we assemble, and we'll get these on the truck. All right, rear installation a success, and you can see that track width, that plus 8 millimeter on each side, quite a bit, and then the axle's lifted up quite a bit as well. This thing looks jacked, so we'll have to get the front on to even it out. These stock wheels do fit, but just barely, and the outer housing is kind of machined at the top to allow for the wheel. And you can see I've got these on here loose, you know, as typical, but I think due to the extra gear reduction that you don't get one wheel able to wiggle the other wheel as typical. But both of these are not having any resistance at all. But see, here's that piece. You can see that edge is kind of machined there to allow for the rim. But I just wanted to see if the stock wheels and tires would fit on there. So we'll get the front on there, and then we're going to throw it on the scales and see what kind of weight this added overall. Just a quick note as I'm doing this, you know, I put the top two screws in, the portal housings, and then the bottom screws, and then could thread the bottom in so everything's aligned, because the two top ones are just through bolts, so then you can pull those out, and then you kind of just have to get the gear aligned and make sure this pin, you know, pops in its receiving bearing hole, and then once you've got it on and everything's good, then you're going to want to line up the holes and put in these through bolts. But that just seemed to be the easiest way, is to put the knuckle on and then put the portal box on. Another little nice thing about these knuckles is you can put them on first without the axle shaft. Since there's no inner bearings, you just slide this guy in after the fact, and it's got the slotted cups on the inside, so you can put your knuckle on and then transfer your little O-ring and slide this in, and it does sit out like that just a little bit, but knuckles fit on here really nicely. So we'll get this guy finished up. Got the other side on there, so we're almost there. Done and done. Look at that. It's definitely some ground clearance. Wow. And if you're a builder like me, you end up with some spare parts to use later on. Some bearings, some axle shafts. Let's take a look at this clearance. Look at that. That's insane. Of course, it is looking a little silly now on the stock skinnies. So we'll have to do something about that next. And then to get this running, since the portals reduce and reverse direction again, we're going to have to switch the motor direction. So we're going to have to pull each wire out of the connector and switch them to the opposite side. So when we plug it in, we'll have our negative to positive and positive to negative on the motor, and that should give us a reverse rotation to get us actually driving forward and reverse per the throttle. Now if you've got a more advanced radio, different motor, whatnot, you should be able to just switch the motor direction. So you know, anybody on a Lizard just switched motor direction, super easy. But I'm going to get it on the scale, see how we came out here, and then we're going to put those wheels on, flip the motor direction, and drive it. All right, I got this motor flipped, and I was able to just get a hobby knife under these white plastic tabs and kind of pry up as you pull out, and then I just swap positions. So if you notice, let's see, the battery here plugs in, so now you've got the wires opposite of each other. So our motor ought to be turning the right direction. We can check that in just a second. That's pretty nice, right over the tires. It doesn't seem that much slower than stock. Somewhat, yes. But this is stock motor, stock pinion, stock ESC. It's really hard to tell if that's, I think that is a little bit better slow crawl with that gear reduction, but it's not magically making this stock motor incredibly torquey. Let me switch this over to just low speed. So it'll be very interesting to me to see this system perform with a better ESC and a better motor for sure. But it gives you an idea of just, you know, tit for tat, if you throw this on a stock vehicle, what it's going to be like. So I think the next thing, let's get out these rims that are specifically made for this portal kit, and I'll go pick out some spare tires that I've got, put those on there, and we'll get those mounted up. See what this thing looks like with some actually appropriately sized wheels and tires on it. Just wanted to give you a shot of these rims. I told you they were larger than a 1.0, and you can see they're bigger than that one on the left, and obviously way deeper. They're vented. So I think I'm going to pair them with these Injora boggers, these Super Swamper boggers here in the background. Quite a bit wider. But here's the hubs, and these are the typical hubs that he sells with his other UPW rims and DDPs. So these are the 3mm I have on these. So I think these will fit just fine. You can see though the hub sticks out basically to the face of the rim, so there'd be no clearance issue on the portal, but these are going to offset even further than what's on there now. So let's try these, and you can see they're just hollowed out in the middle, so that hub's going to sit way in there, and these will sit right over the whole portal box basically. So let's get these on there. Alright, got my last one ready to go, and just a couple of tips here. Getting that hub mounted is the hardest part of this. It's a super tight fit into this resin wheel. If you look on the inside of that resin hub hole, there's some very tiny little nubs that were, I guess, bracing attachment points. So I took an X-Acto and got those clipped off. Then I had to press in the hub from the outside face, then pop it off, and then press it in from the inside face, and of course not have the holes aligned. Pop it off, and I would just use this and then tap it with the end of a screwdriver to pop that hub back out. But basically popping that hub in and out a couple times will loosen that hole, and then you should be able to kind of align the hub with the screw holes and be able to press fit it in there. And make sure it's fully seated against the wheel, or your hub's going to be crooked on your wheel. And then just, you know, work your screws in as usual in a star pattern, kind of slowly working them down. But no glue, friction fit. These guys look awesome, super wide, deep. So let me get this last one on there. Gotta say, these wheels look really good. Getting a little rub. What you can see, they kind of brought it back in. Stance is not so insanely wide. Boy, look at that stock servo, really struggling there. So what's cool about these rims is you could actually mount the hub on this outer face and get some super deep dish wheels. Just flip the hub to this flat face. The only thing is the inside is not near as clean as this outer resin face. This is really smooth and nice. Not that the inside's bad, but it's not as crisp. I don't know if you can really see it there, but you could prime and paint these wheels pretty easily and they would look sweet. I really like the friction fit tires, not having to glue those on there. That's really smart. So I'm gonna throw the Panda out here and we'll take a look at the clearance difference for a comparison. All right, just a little side by side here showing the clearance from the ground to the diff. And you can see this massive difference here. So I'm gonna take one of these IROX, really wide tires, and slip it under here. And you can see there's still plenty of clearance. And take a stock tire and slip it under this one, and there's a little bit of clearance left. And it cannot fit the IROC, it barely hits. So these are sitting on about the same size tires, so there's a huge difference in clearance with these portals. So if you're looking for that, it's going to raise your overall center of gravity a little bit because everything goes up with those axles, but your diffs go up as well, so you get that clearance. So I think that's going to do it for this little install segment. Look for more on this deadbolt. There's going to be a full build series. Lots to do on this guy, but just such a cool product. I just had to get these installed. So I'll do a little test running with these, see how they perform. It's really going to be dependent, I think, on swapping up that motor to something a little more substantial. Just wanted to follow up with some additional install notes or final thoughts here, I guess. Gotta say, overall the portals were super easy. The portal boxes went together flawlessly. Knuckles, of course, are an easy install. You know, if I hadn't been filming, those would have probably taken 15 minutes all the way around. Just really easy, not a lot of parts. I'm going to go back and add Loctite to the metal on metal brass, which is all 4 front on the portal box and then the 2 lowers on the rears. That's something I usually don't do on an initial install until I have tested it and know I don't have to deinstall it several times. But honestly, I gotta say, getting the hubs fitted to those rims, or at least figuring out how to fit those in that first one, honestly took longer than the portals. But once I kind of figured out that method, the other 3 went pretty quick. But yeah, I think this thing is already looking pretty sweet for just kind of a quick upgrade here. So big thanks to Nick at Mofo RC for providing me these brand new resin wheels to try out with these portal boxes, and also that carbon fiber chassis. So that may end up on this build in the future. So yeah, if you are looking for some portals for the SCX24, look no further than Mofo RC. So you've got the brass knuckles, the brass portal boxes, and you've got the portal specific resin rims. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed, maybe learned something, and thanks for watching.